All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 32nd episode of The Get Down. My name is Kareem.
Gary W. here.
Our guest this week is Mr. Gavin Boss, Aventi DJs. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
You know, hanging in. We have great news over here at Jersey side, so we're doing okay. We have some openings, so DJs are happy where we live or where I live.
Nice.
I was thinking we're all over the place. Like I'm in Florida, you're out in California, Kareem, you're up in Jersey. Like this is one of the first ones that we're really spread out across the country.
And my team's in Minnesota, so it's like the whole.
We got it all covered.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have Gavin on the show because I think he's doing some very unique things in the DJ world. I think he's thinking outside the box pre-pandemic and now during the COVID time. So we kind of wanted to get into some of that, but we met through MI, right?
Yeah. So I actually was launching a mobile app, which we'll talk about later. And MI was starting a little side company or side music group called Secret Sauce he was working on. And they had about like 1,000 streams on SoundCloud. And I knew a kid from high school that reposted it. And and it ended up us going on a college tour, doing 10 stops together and just being goofy and you know, having fun. And then, when I was back in town for a show, I hit him up and I think he connected me to you, and that was that. So it's awesome.
Big shout to MI because he's grown so much in the last few years, and his music is really, really good. It's well produced. I actually think he's performed with 4B for 4B and Friends out, I think, in LA this weekend, right
up the street. Yeah, I just sent him a message actually. So
so shout to MI linked us up, and you were out in Jersey because you're originally from Jersey, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Randolph, which is right outside of Morristown, New Jersey. So went to school in Poughkeepsie, New York at Marist College. And I'll share a little bit about that later if you guys want. But yeah, I've been a DJ since I was 13. So
we got to rock a Tally Ho Thursday night, which is probably one of if not my favorite set that I was getting to play. And we had never met before. We've never really even heard each other play, and we kind of just rocked out and had a good time. And it was fun.
It was. It reminded me of like the old school times where you just like have a house party and 10 people are on the aux, except for I just showed up and met some new guys. I know a bunch of the other Get Down DJs walk through, and we're getting diner food, all sorts of stuff, man. It reminded me of home. So I really appreciated you having that hospitality.
Yeah. Tally Ho is that place where like you can just walk in and, you know, once you're introduced to the Get Down guys, especially there on a Thursday, you're in the group. It's somewhere that they always there. I mean, you have people there every Thursday, you know, during normal times, obviously when we were there. And every time I look at my Instagram story, I'm like, damn, like I wish I was around for this, because we have like 13 guys hanging out there. But like just a super easy spot to walk in and play and rock out, and it's just a lot of fun, and the staff's always super cool. So yeah, just that's definitely a great place to meet the Get Down guys.
Definitely.
That's just an industry night, really, because it not just Get Down guys, like people who I never really got to see because they weren't working would pop in on a Thursday a lot of times. So that was always really fun.
I think it's so funny. Like we've tried to like push industry nights and like create one, and that just kind of like came about, you know, it's kind of funny how that works.
So we rocked this party together, and afterwards we went to the diner. We were just talking about our businesses and things we're working on. And like, we just instantly clicked because I thought we had a very similar mind state. You had your DJ group. And as we were learning more about each other, it was like, wow, like this is somebody that I want to work with. So tell us about Aventi Entertainment and tell us how that started and what it is and what you guys are doing.
Totally. So appreciate the intro. So Aventi Entertainment, essentially what it's come out of, it's been a super organic company. So it wasn't forced. It wasn't this grand master idea that I've had. And I think a lot of times when young DJs look up to Get Down DJs or other DJ companies, they think of this elaborate plan, but really it was an organic start. So I started DJing, like I mentioned a little bit ago, when I was really young. I got all my equipment from my cousin for Christmas one year. And he gave me a bootleg version of Virtual DJ and Serato on a laptop. And then he gave me these really old decks. And so I kind of just started doing events, anything I can make money on. So I did birthdays, sweet 16s, parties, all through high school. Took that experience and then moved to college, where I went to Marist College up in Poughkeepsie, and started doing, again, any frat or any club I could do there, I would do, and just kind of worked my way through college, being a DJ, doing the radio station as well on campus. And so after college, I ended up getting a finance degree. And so I had this real job opportunities in front of me. And I kind of had this split in the road. Do I want to DJ or do I want to go do a cube life for the rest of my life? So I did the rational decision, which was actually do the cube. So I took a job with IBM and they relocated me to Minnesota. And so I'd never been to Minnesota. I only knew about Mall of America. It's about the only thing I'd ever heard of there. But I'm open to moving and being, trying new things. So within 3 to 5 months of being there, I was like, dude, I got to DJ again. It was driving me crazy and seeing other people party and seeing DJs at clubs. And I'm the guy at the bar. So I had the itch and I reached out to a couple clubs in Minnesota and said, hey, this is my background. This is my history. I'd love to DJ on the side. I work at IBM during the week. Let me get some gigs on the weekend. And immediately I saw that there was this huge need for, coastal level talent in the Midwest. So that's just kind of a little theme for guys that are, always open and willing to travel and try new things. Like the Midwest is a really untapped opportunity. And that's something we can tap on later. But I instantly got some bites back and started working at one club out there called The Loop, which is a lot like Tally Ho, same size, same vibe. And from there, within a month or two, they said, hey, can you take over my staffing? Can you handle the DJs? Can you bring your energy to the other nights? And so I took over that and then realized I needed help because I didn't want to work 7 days a week. So I ended up just reaching out to other guys and even recruiting people to move out to Minnesota and say, that I've worked with in the past. And then from there, I got referrals, new club, new bar, and just grew the company. So it just essentially started with me and then adding guys one at a time that I trusted and I knew could grow with me. And Aventi DJs has grown to a group of 7 guys that's where we're at now. And then we obviously have further trusted contractors we work at, and we're spread across the country. So we do everything from weddings to sweet 16s to clubs to these college events. And it's just growing and more, and I'll share more about the dynamic of our team, but yeah, that's the background.
I think Gary's going through, obviously the pandemic hit when Gary moved. So it was really hard for him to branch out in a new market. But what were some of the things that you did in a new market to get your name out there or to get your foot in the door at one of these venues?
Totally. I think the first thing is you just got to be really aggressive and respectful. So like when I first got there, I spent a lot of time just doing my homework and looking at the landscape of the competitive landscape. So, I think you don't want to like do anything the wrong way. You don't want to like step on anyone's toes or go overboard. But I think there is an opportunity for if there's an opportunity for a club to be improved upon, you should present that opportunity to a venue. And a lot of these venues, some of them didn't even have a DJ or some of them wanted to try different nights. And so for me, I think looking laterally, if there's already DJs there, obviously we're trying to work with them and maybe asking for a spot and being respectful of all the kind of routine ways of going into a venue. But if there is an open night, like, hey, I'll DJ on a Monday, show you guys I'm good. And if the 7 people that like it there and grow it to 10 to a 12, I'm not doing anything Monday night. Right. So, and then build that trust with the bar staff and everything like that. So I think it just really, I looked at the landscape and then attacked where I thought there were opportunities to grow. And then I kind of reverted back to my 13-year-old self, which was do free stuff. I'll show up and prove my worth over time and, put 6 months of hard work in of just letting people know who I am in Minnesota to then get year-long, to 5-year-long residencies at these venues. So it was kind of just a spray and pray tactic in some way. And then once I found some opportunities and some holes in some venues I thought were a good fit, I just grew with my brand and my sound. So
that's exactly how we tell our GDU members to attack places. And when you're in a new market, I think doing the free stuff is essential, right? Mm-hmm. As much as we do talk about how we frown upon, try to stay away from it, try to get something out of it, but still provide value in some fashion. But yeah, when you're in a brand new market, you really don't know anyone, like you really have to just get your foot in the door somehow. Right. That was kind of what I was starting to do down here, especially over in Tampa, because the guys that Cream goes and works for down in Tampa, they haven't heard me spin yet. So I was a couple weeks ago, going to open up for free for one of our guys out there, one of our connects. And they were like, oh, they went back to phase one. They're not doing DJs. So it's been like, you know, one thing after another. But I definitely can relate to what you're saying, like, you know, and trying to go in and get your foot in the door and do that free stuff when you can.
And I think there's a huge difference between, you know, like saying, hey, I'm going to come into this venue and I'm going to sign a year-long contract at $50 a night just to ride this guy out, right? Like, I think that's a huge difference between, I'm gonna give you guys 3 nights. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to meet your manager after. Let's sit down and talk, get to know each other, and let me show you that I have a sound that fits you guys, and I fit in with the culture. Like, that's a huge difference, right? It's like a test drive on a car versus saying, let me sell you a used car, and then the other DJ gets messed up. So I think there's definitely a differentiation between the two, and you can do both, you know?
Right. I agree. I think the quote unquote free work, I said it on a podcast and people were like freaking out about it. I'm like, guys, I'm not talking about like just doing shit for free, but sometimes you have to think relationship and you have to think long-term. And if that means going to do something for free, that's going to get you 50 bookings down the road, like that one free gig is worth it. So
totally.
You have to be smart about it. And you have to realize, all right, is this someone that's trying to build a relationship with me or somewhere that I want to build a relationship? Or is this somewhere that's just trying to take advantage of me? And I think it's very easy to know off the bat if someone's trying to take advantage of you or not, based on how they treat you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We say this all the time. We're in an industry where you deal with people constantly. You can read people pretty well, like right in the first 3 minutes of meeting them, right? You could tell when somebody's a scumbag right off the jump, most of the time. Right. Especially you know, and we've dealt with enough owners and managers. Now, when we talk to like our GDU members who don't have a lot of experience, maybe, you know, that becomes a little more testy and a little more, you know, difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say too, Gary, one of the things that I've realized talking about a new market, it really does take like 90% of the skill to get these venues is really interpersonal skills. And I think that's one thing that is really not talked about enough. And I know you guys are doing a great job of like training DJs on this, but interpersonal skills is really what lands these venues. And it's being willing to have those conversations and being able to read people the way you're saying. And I think that's difficult for a lot of DJs. You know, a lot of DJs don't have that ability to understand if they're being taken advantage of or being. So I think Get Down is a really good brand. And that's kind of why I started my company, right? Because I believe in my interpersonal skills. And so if I'm able to read that and then share that knowledge, hey, maybe this is a good fit for you, or I think this is being taken advantage, I'll do that for anyone, whether they're part of the company or not. And I think you guys would too, you know, Anthony, if a guy reaches out to you in New York and says, hey, can you give me a read on this guy? Do you know anything about him? You're happy to do that. So that's definitely a strength that I think, you know, leadership in some of these bigger DJ groups can provide when you join, is that kind of guidance from an interpersonal side.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that not a lot of people are like the three of us in that way, being able to not only go and play and be the DJ, but also be able to talk about money and talk about, you know, marketing and talk about, bring ideas to the table, and all that stuff from an owner or a booker's perspective shows so much value. And if you can do that as a DJ, they're going to be way more likely to want to work with you. So I do think that those interpersonal skills and just an understanding of a little bit about the business of nightlife can go such a long way.
Totally.
When we it's just to round this out, when we talk about this, like, I don't know, I'm always like jaded New Yorker. I always feel like somebody's trying to screw me, you know, or you're bullshitting me. And, you know, this gig that you're telling me about, like, it sounds too good to be true kind of a thing. And that's why I like having somebody like Kareem as a partner to kind of balance it out.
Well, we've gotten burned so many times too. So it's not even being jaded. It's from experience.
Yeah. As
younger DJs.
Well, right. You know, coming like at 16, trying to get into nightclubs, like when I was trying to get into like bars and nightclubs, and at that age, like everybody's trying to take advantage of you, right? But yeah, you know, and that still sticks with me 20 years later. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. So with your crew, your Aventi crew, something that I thought was really cool and different. So you have a house in Rochester or outside of Minneapolis, right? Where you have all of your guys who live in one house and kind of live together, work together, and create together. And I thought that was so cool. So tell us about how that came about and what the dynamic of the house really is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, yeah, so to give you a background, all of our guys either live in the house, work at the house. It's kind of a mix of an office, party space. I think one thing that's unique about DJing as a profession, and when you're making it a lifestyle choice, is that it really is this full around lifestyle that is different than other places. There is no 9 to 5 checkout. And especially, as you grow older, it somewhat fades away. But at the same time, we are living in this world of creation, of content, of going to bars, traveling, being fluid in our lifestyle. We're not stuck to a set schedule. And so that lifestyle needs to be fostered a certain way. So I felt like putting everyone in the same house and allowing that, that free flowing movement to happen is really important. So the house is essentially a spot where guys can do a couple things. Number one, it eases the burdens. So that's like the biggest thing that I wanted to provide with the house is there's so many burdens becoming a DJ, right? It's like you're scared to take that step into the real world where you don't have money, quarantine, things like this happen outside of just the quarantine, right? Like you go with a gig lets you go and now your residency at 1:30 your cash goes, right? So all these different burdens of where do I live? What, do I have to pay for internet, trash, all this stuff that kind of burdens people and like kind of gets their mind clogged up. We've taken that onto the company. So I think that was really important for these new guys that are between the ages of 18 and 23. They come in, they feel safe, they know they have a place to live, all the utilities and stuff are paid for, and it's set up for success. So they come into a safe space. And then the second thing is it allows for just consistent creation, because I know for me, doing DJ streams and doing video production and all this stuff, when I had to essentially pack up my things, go to a studio or find the spot to do it all the time, it was a constant headache to find a creation. But when you have a space where you're living and there's a dedicated opportunity for you to have an office and a production studio, and it just allows for work to be way more productive. So the house in itself pays for that from a productivity standpoint. And then the third thing is that it just also allows for non-DJ stuff to be happen, right? So we have parties, we have events, we have get-togethers, we invite community over. So it's like essentially a spot where we grow in the community just from a cool nightclub style. So we have like a mock nightclub in the basement where we call it the Aventi Social Club, and we invite people over, and then those end up transitioning into wedding leads, into, hey, my buddy bartends here, check this out. It's not necessarily the goal of it, but that's just how it happens. And we create that community vibe. So it's kind of just like all around, it's been really useful and really successful. And the guys love being there. So yeah, it's been a good experience for us. And as we grow, we're looking to definitely expand in that idea.
Man, that's such an incredible idea. There's so much inspiration that has to come out of that place. Like I know, like when Kareem and myself and one of our guys, Angelo, the kid, get in a room, or UFOs, we get in a room, and like there's just a ton that gets done when you're in a room together because you're just inspired by one another. And I can't even imagine what that would be like on the scale of living with other DJs. It's got to be so productive, number one. And like you said, the stresses of life are alleviated with your utilities are paid for, and it's like just 1 or 2 or 3 less things that you really have to worry about. And then you can really just focus on your craft.
Totally.
Another thing too, before Gavin, you answer that, or you jump into on that, something else that we talked about over the summer that I thought was really unique and awesome. And you talked about taking the burden off, but you have multiple setups for all the private events for your DJs who live there. You literally had them fitted for suits, so that their suits for events are literally like sitting in their closet. When they get booked for an Aventi gig, this is what you wear. This is setup number 1, and you go do the gig. Here's the information.
Yeah, I think that's an example of all those burdens that you think about. It's like you just want to make sure everything. Number one, it helps maintain the brand. So I think that's something I didn't mention. It's like a really important part of having people at the house is like to get into the house. It also, you're held to a standard of like maintaining the Aventi brand. And I think that's like the way you live, the way you act, right? So like, I think with people in the house, like we want to have a standard code of conduct, and that encourages people to like hold each other accountable, to be family style. And like, and that's not always the same when you live in these isolated pockets and you only deal with them when you're at a club or when you walk by, or you send a text, go do this gig. It's not very personal. So when they all live together and they kind of have that family experience, it encourages them to help each other. But yeah, from a standardization side, yeah, all of our equipment's there. Our storage unit has all of our speakers, our t-shirts for different shows. Everything's on a rack. It's like very organized. And it just, again, just provides that space for them to go. And I was going to say, Gary, you're mentioning when you get in a room, I think really like 90% of the lack of productivity comes from just people not wanting to leave their house. And it's great that we've been kind of forced to do that with Skype. But like when you think of pre-Skype, like it's like, hey, when do you want to meet? Oh, I'm busy this time. I'm busy this time. And it's so hard to get people on that same note. So that really does alleviate that cross communication barrier when you have everyone just in the house. You yell upstairs to get an answer, quickly.
Yeah. What do you think the get down house would look like?
A mess, Cream, a complete mess.
I'd be coming in just yelling at people like the dishes are piled up and just Daddy Cream stuff.
Daddy Cream's anxiety would not be good for that kind of living environment. That's for sure.
No, but definitely in all seriousness, the amount of content that would come out would be times 4, times 10. It must be that on that level. It must be incredible. So I love that. It's super cool. What are some of the things that you look for when you're bringing someone onto the team? Do you have a process behind it?
Yeah. So this has been a challenge, and I'm sure it's been a challenge for you guys as well. And I think it's been a learning lesson. So I just shared all the awesome parts about the house. Some of the non-awesome parts have been really getting to know people's true colors in the DJ industry. So I think as you grow really quickly, this is a problem we had, and it sounds a little arrogant, but we actually grew really quickly. And we ended up having to reach out and kind of grab onto whatever talent or people that we could find, especially in the Midwest. And so with that, it kind of came some drawbacks, which was essentially conflict in the house. So in full transparency, not everything's always been 100%. So with the good comes the bad. And we have had times where the personalities have been kind of showing true color when they're living in a situation with the guys. So that's been a real changing point within our company over the past 2 years, is as we've cycled people through the house and we realized some people have come, some people have gone. And then obviously there's the anchors that still live there and have kind of been consistent to the brand. We've just realized how important hiring is. And so when you think about what we look for, number one, I would say the last thing we look for now is actually DJ talent, because I think that's one of the easier things nowadays to find with people is they can beat match and they can find some open format bootlegs on BPM. So it's like with the barrier to entry down so low, that no longer is the goal of the hire. So the hire for us is really back to those interpersonal skills. Number one, it's like humility. So it's like them willing to do those free events to help one another, to be there for people, just from a professional side and from a personal side. So we look for that, like willingness to work with one another. So how well do you, like, if we send you on a trip to go somewhere, am I going to get a text from the guy that's worked with me for 5 years saying, hey, he's complaining about the setup, he's complaining about the teardown, he wants to go home already? Or is the guy there, he's like, hey, tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. And then I would say the other thing is just willingness to learn. That's a big one for us. Is like, are you willing to learn new things? If we have a new software come out, are you willing to try new music? Are you willing to do new shows? Are you willing to train at a wedding? That kind of stuff. And so, yeah, we just kind of hone in on those behavioral skills and how do they behave in public? How do they treat other people, the bartenders, the staff? All that stuff's looked at way more than their DJ talent. I can teach you on the decks over time. That's something, but you have to find a good person that's willing to fit the mold and fill the culture. So that's been a cycle for us for sure.
Yeah, we've had to figure it out as we went as well, because we did grow pretty quickly, and it was like, all right, well, we need to fill these places because we never want to turn down an opportunity, right?
Right.
So yeah, I feel your pain. And I think we went through the same thing and came to realize also that it's all about fitting in with the guys and creating this team environment, and that these are the people that are representing not only themselves, but also our brands. And it's really important when you're in a place and you're representing me or Gary or the Get Down brand as a whole, that, you know, you're acting in a way that is acceptable, you know, and is going to further our relationship, not hurt it.
Yeah.
It's so hard. You're right. It is so hard from Jump Street to understand. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go back. Like, we've been stuck in a situation where, like, all right, we had to hire somebody that, okay, we know that this guy's a good DJ through one of our DJs. So he gets put in a spot, and sometimes that guy becomes one of our main guys for a long time, or, you know, and you're hiring people that maybe you never met before, you know, and this is only when you're in tight spots. This doesn't happen all the time. And, you know, it becomes very difficult to have a vetting process at that point. And then, you know, you have to kind of go through it with each individual guy. It's just, it's hard. It's not an easy aspect of owning a company, hiring the right people.
Yeah, I'll share the two biggest killers of relationships for us. That's been, so it's been two things. Number one, I think it's personal life, and then the other one is ego. So personal life, I think people underestimate how much of an effect your perception on social media and the way you just treat people, whether you tip your bartenders out in public, and the way your personal life rolls over into your DJ life, right? Like there's not a lot of separation. We're not guys that clock in at Walmart and then we go out and we party at the bar and we can do whatever we want. No one cares, right? We're people that are seen publicly. We have public perception of us. It represents the get down. You know, when we go out on an industry night somewhere else, people are looking at us. Hey, that's Gary right there. That's Anthony. Like that's Cream. That's, you know, what is he doing? Is he tipping his bartender? Is he getting in a fight outside? Like all those things that happen. Personal life is important, that you're the same person that you are DJing, that you are like at the bar or in your personal life. And if you're not, there's some weird transparency that maybe you got to work on yourself a little bit. The second one's ego, right? So for us, we're really into fostering talent and bringing it up. It's like part of our I guess core business belief is that we don't want to necessarily hire the highest talent in the world and then just like let them go do their thing. We really value growing DJs and fostering them in all these different proprietary ideas, whether it's like the music that you guys have or the venue connections, all these things that, or the way we handle our back end and billing and all these different things. So I think as the guys grow, ego is a really difficult thing we have to deal with when they get to a spot where they do become that guy quicker than someone else, or they ended up playing a stage of 5,000 people and now they're asking for pay raises and other things. It's like very difficult to manage that. And it goes one of two ways. One is the guys are always loyal to the brand and they really appreciate everything they've been given, or they all of a sudden feel like they're the best DJ and better than the owner. So it's like one of the two ways, and it's really difficult balance to find. So we're trying to work that stuff out, and all that's part of growing a business. But those are the two biggest, you know, points in the road for us.
All right. So you have your brand and you have, you know, your gigs, and I know you said you're doing what, about like 30% nightlife and then the rest more private events and some of these college gigs. So when the pandemic hit, you guys pivoted completely and did something that I thought, and I said this earlier before we were recording, I thought it was like one of the best things I saw come out of the pandemic. And it was called the Parking Lot Social Tour. So tell us what it is and tell us how that came about and what your mind state was of going into that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a really great partner. Their names are XL Event Labs. So they put on extra large events. So they're kind of like these guys that they're out of the UK and they do a lot of stuff with colleges and inflatables and just like bigger events they've done in the past. So they just, when you have an idea for a large event, you come to them and you partner with them. So some of our bigger activations, we worked with them and they kind of came to us and partnered on this Parking Lot Social. And they were kind of the guys that provided a lot of the stuff that we didn't know how to do. So with the Parking Lot Social, it was essentially a drive-in experience where Aventi Entertainment provided the on-stage experience and XL Event Labs handled the logistics. And that was a really great partnership for us because two things. It allowed us to get stuff done super quick, like you mentioned. So we came together. We both knew what our roles was, where what we were good at, what we were bad at. They executed their parts. We executed us. So it allowed us to be a first mover on that space before drive-ins really took off. So what people expected to see, essentially what we would do is pull into a city for a week. And so throughout the week, there'd be a range of different performances. So it could be a movie night. It could be a stand-up comedy night. It could be the DJ night, which we called the Big Weekender. And so there's all these different little mini shows throughout the weekend that we left the one space blown up the entire weekend. So for the Big Weekender, that was really where the DJ side picked in. So we did bingo, we did trivia, we did an open format set where people could honk and dance in their car and have a good time. And all that was kind of encompassed in this like 2-hour show that was just 20-minute segments of little different acts. And so, yeah, we ended up picking that up and going to the first spots where they allowed, which is like your Texas, your Tampa, and kind of moving that. And then we actually got clearance to do some, non-safer spots because we proved that we were being safe. So Philly, Washington, D.C., and just traveled around. And wherever we could get a permit, we got a permit, and they really liked it at first and then ended up cracking down harder towards the end of it. But it was nice to get that pop in while we had it versus a lot of the drive-ins ended up investing in being a follower, and then now they got shut down. So it's like really tough for some of these drive-in companies that have been trying to get their money's worth and investment back on the stuff. But so yeah, we plan on actually still doing that post-COVID, but it was a really great opportunity for us to just jump in and create a concept.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, are you planning to do another one? I feel like this is something that, I would be super attracted to doing. Just like, it's just different. It's not your standard concert. It's not your standard nightclub and the same old shit. Like, I feel like having that same old experience, being that we've been in the industry so long, like you could see the disinterest in the bars, and there's become disinterest in nightclubs. And the next thing was festivals, and now that's even kind of getting old because it's super saturated all over the world. Like, this seems like just the next step in entertainment, and we're going to see a lot of really great things come out of COVID, this being one of them. So like you said, you think you're planning another one. You're going to work with the same event group and kind of move forward with them.
Yeah, I think we loved the concept. We really thought people loved it. And yeah, it's planning on doing it again after. We don't think that trend's going to go anywhere. I think as long as it's differentiated enough and people feel like they're getting a different experience from what they can find, even when things open, we find it to be successful. And yeah, I think you mentioned, Gary, it's like people want to try something different. I think that's something that DJs should think about as they're coming back into post quarantine. So one like kind of a little bit futuristic, not to get too into it, and I'll just be brief on it, is gamification of DJing. So for us, like, we're really pushing doing different things and different experiences on top of DJing to provide an extra level of value. So one example is when we were first trying to keep people at their seats and not having them all grind on each other when we're doing these quarantine safe nights, we actually did a mix of DJing and trivia. So we had allowed them to vote or choose from their phone on the TVs, different trivia questions, and we would DJ for a little bit, go back to 20 questions, and they're all stupid questions like, like what's the first capital of the United States, or just stuff when you're drunk you want to watch and interact with, and not just sit there and watch a DJ, right? So, or another one is like birthday shout outs, where we essentially will have a second laptop with an HDMI into the TVs. And real quick, we changed the name, and it has happy birthday with a stupid GIF of a dog smashing its face into a birthday cake. And it's really quick, right? They come up, we type their name in, pop it on the TV, and it looks like this grander experience than it is. Or another one, which is booze bombs, which is a thing we're coming out with, where we come up to the DJ booth, give us 10 names of you and your friends. We're going to put a wheel on the TV where it spins around and it lands on a name. They have to buy the next round of shots, right? So driving value for the bar, getting people hyped up, and using the TVs as a gamified space, I think is really cool to kind of add that layer of fun for bars versus just DJing, So that's just a little side trend we're trying to hop on right now.
Are you using your Spark DJ app for that, or is that something else that you're using?
No, so it's the same concept, right? So it's like using that mindset that I have with Spark DJ, and really it's super simple. We're just using basic online plugins, and I'm just making it fun. So I'm finding a wheel that spins around online. It took me 5 seconds to find it. It says, type in your name to the people, and I put a logo on top that says Booze Bomb, and put the logo of the bar down there, and it's that simple. So those are ideas that we just can try to come up with to keep things interesting and drive value for the bar and for during quarantine, at least, and probably after as well. So
yeah, and like all these businesses are looking for ways to make money, and if you can show something different, show something that does bring value, which we always talk about in whatever you do, right? Yeah. Whatever you're trying to get into, you have to show value in order to get paid the money you want and get the bookings or contracts or whatever it might be that you want. So that's super awesome and a great way to stand out. And I'm happy for you guys. And I wish I could have attended one, definitely, to see the full experience. But we mentioned Spark DJ. And this was, again, something we talked about on the phone. What is it, and where's it going?
Sure. Yeah. So Spark DJ was me and another DJ, actually. His name's James Jones, DJ 3J. And he's my partner in the business. Essentially, the whole idea came out from essentially when we started, it's changed over time. When we started, I thought about the Monday through Thursday, right? So it's such a difficult space outside of big cities. No bar can afford to hire a DJ Monday through Thursday. There's just not the clientele. There's not the crowd. Unless you want to pay, $50 to have a DJ there, and you guys talk about price points. So it's kind of between a rock and a hard place for a lot of these venues. So what we wanted to do is try to recreate to the best of our abilities the DJ experience for those nights when the bars couldn't afford it. So our first goal out the gates was to create an AI DJ. That was the goal. It sounded like a lofty goal, but creating beat matching, creating song selection, understanding the venue and the people that are there. And we were actually successful in creating an algorithm that beat matches and finds and cue points and can song select based on genres and choices. But one feature in there actually really differentiated it and made it exciting for us, which was we allowed people to type in requests from their phone into the algorithm, right? And we just saw people loved it. They loved it. They're like, hey, let me put in my request from my phone to the algorithm. And we realized that was something that was exciting and we wanted to lean into more. So we further moved it on to now the DJ shows 5 song choices up on the screen. And they can choose from one of those 5, and everyone locks in their vote like a game show. And then there's a countdown timer. So when the timer hits 0, the votes are revealed, and that winning song gets picked. And then we saw that people liked the fact that they won. They won the song, they picked the song, and it got played, and they won points. And we added like a point system and get in that gamification. And so from there, we started to do shout outs, and we want to do all these different things where people can essentially interact from their phone to the TV. So that's all that idea is kind of wrapped up in Spark DJ. And the perfect spot where we launched it was actually, we got a contract with Caesars Entertainment. So they are kind of our corporate hub for growing this idea. We were at the link, obviously before COVID happened, but it's going to be relaunched here whenever they get permission to do so. But yeah, that's where you can find it. It's Vegas. It's kind of that, everyone's playing slots. Everyone's doing interactive stuff anyway. And the link is actually moving forward with trying to be the most innovative casino on the strip. So if you've ever been there recently, they're doing all these unique opportunities and pop-ups. So yeah, it's just kind of this growing idea that essentially allows people to interact with the TVs and create a DJ experience for a cheaper price.
Yeah, a lot of keywords that you're hitting on, like the gamify and then engaging and interacting. And this is something that Gary and I have talked about a bunch on the show, is just that the days of just being someone that can go and play music are kind of over. You have to do something else, because there's a lot of DJs and people have seen just DJing, right? And everyone is so into their phones and instant gratification and being able to go to Spotify and get a song instantly. Like, they want that same feeling when they go out, which is why we see so many requests. So something like this to me sounds like a no-brainer and something that will be very successful, because it wraps all of those ideologies into one thing in a nightlife or bar situation. Totally. And it's not just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a 7-day-a-week type thing that you can do.
Yeah. And I think one thing we're very delicate on, just to touch and put a caveat here, is like, I think we don't want to ruin the DJ experience. So that's a really important element for us as both Spark DJ and Aventi as we add in any of those things. So when we're thinking of gamification, really, we're trying to avoid simply just giving a tool out that people can, put their own Spotify on or put requests in the door. Like, right, the hub is still going to be that open format, fun electric DJ that gets on the mic and is fun and cool and can engage with the audience. But when I think of another thing, a lost art that really we want to bring back, which is a real reason why people want to go to the bar, see DJs, is meeting other people. That's been a really tough time for people. No one wants to go up and say hi to anyone. Everyone's on their phone on Tinder. They're going to go meet someone else after anyway. They're just there with their friends. So what we want to do is start creating real engagement activity in a bar too. So what we are looking to do moving forward, both as Aventi and Spark DJ, is creating those social engagements through mobile app and through different experiences, right? So it's like one idea we had was on the TVs, again, engaging them, is just saying simple questions like, hey, who owns a dog? Put your hands up in the air. That's so dumb, right? Everyone's drunk, having a good time. You see the girl next to you, put your hand up now you have a conversation piece to talk about. Or, what's your favorite clothing brand? Having people vote on the TV. Is it Supreme, something else? Or, what's your favorite drunk food? Hot dogs, pizza, chicken nuggets. Now you vote, and then I saw someone else vote chicken nuggets. That's funny. Like, let's talk, So it's like these fun little engaging pieces to allow people to bring back that old school mentality of let's chat at a bar, let's get drunk and get to know each other. And that's part of the DJ culture. That's part of what we grew up with. And I feel like it's definitely a missing factor in today's fun at a bar.
Your companies are just doing all the right things for this time period, being interactive and engaging and all those things, like you said, that are starting to go missing in the bar. And I think this is a really good time to launch all that stuff, because you know what, people are coming in kind of with fresh eyes. Like we've been out of nightlife for so long that it's like, all right, this is a great time to launch new experiences. So, I feel like the timing's good. The thought process behind it is perfect, because this is something that Kareem and I talk about all the time. Like he said, like, it's just nerve wracking that at some point the typical DJ is just going to get boring and you're going to start losing just crowd interest, really, when it comes down to it. So yeah. Do you feel like, though, like, obviously some of these things are probably lean better in a bar setting, right? Like in a nightclub setting, like I feel like, like that's a completely different animal, correct? Like just to kind of clarify between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you hit it right on the head. So our client base that we think about is exactly like, even a Tally Ho or something like that, where it is that Irish bar meets club, and they're trying to do this open format thing. We would never be in an Omnia, or we would never be in, these big major clubs. They're there for the music. They're there for the sound system,
right.
And they're there for the cover charge. Like that's what those drivers are for those venues. I think for us, we're thinking of like, an ideal candidate, a Hooters or something like that, or, Tilted Kilt, these venues where they're trying to engage their audience, or they want people to drink more. They want people to party. There's bachelorette parties there. That's kind of our bread and butter. And I think that's really the run of the mill DJ. I think a lot of times when people think of DJs, they think of clubs, but really I think that hybrid concept is so huge and growing. And I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but the idea of let's be an Irish bar during the week and a club on the weekend, or let's be a craft brewery during the week and have a DJ at a cool nights club spot on the weekend. That's the new, club, I think, based on what I've seen, besides major markets like Vegas and stuff like that. So that's who we're trying to provide services to. I
think major markets and kind of anywhere, a lot of these venues kind of have to be multifaceted now, where I forget who it was. I was reading an article about a spot in Vegas that is going to do like Cirque du Soleil on Monday through Thursday. On Friday, they have a DJ. On Saturday, they have a band. On Sunday, maybe they do like a show of some sort, where it's not just Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever it is. It has to be a 7-day-a-week type thing. And you have to take advantage of the space, because there's just not enough demand to be just a nightclub at this point.
Totally.
Like people don't want to dress up and go out and shell out a $500, have a $500 night, have $1,000 night, especially coming out of this. Like people aren't gonna have the money for it. There's just not going to be that kind of, there's just not going to be that kind of spending going on. There's a very small percentage of people that are going to be able to do that. So yes, becoming a sports bar that's a nightclub that we saw like 5 years ago, that was becoming a big thing, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. But we're going to see that all over again, and we're going to see it, all the way from the small guy, the Irish pub, all the way up to, the Omnias, like you're saying, that need to do other things like Cirque du Soleil, et cetera.
Yeah.
Man, I think listening to you and hearing the way your brain thinks, it's definitely refreshing to me. And I think people listening are really going to understand why you guys have seen success, because you thinking of outside the box in so many ways. And I think bringing like the business background that you have and some real world stuff into DJing, the industry, where I don't think that happens as much, So I think that's, going to show in this conversation. But all right, a couple quick hitters. What is something that you would tell a young DJ who's in quarantine that wants to start playing in nightlife or doing private events?
Mm-hmm. I would say don't do the glamour gigs. Don't have your mindset on doing glamour gigs. I think that's one thing that to really, is definitely shown a lot on Instagram and people look up to, but get whatever you can, man. If it's your mom's birthday, DJ your mom's birthday. If it's a friend's party, get your name out there. Do stuff that, if it's opening up for Cream at Tally Ho for the first hour and you ask him to do that, do it. The glamour gigs are not for new DJs. You got to learn, you got to figure things out. And it's like, take it as a training course. I mean, people go to college, people, get trained up by people that know better than them. So I would just say for a new person coming in, take whatever you can and don't worry about trying to get the coolest spot or the best spots out the gate. Just get a spot where you can play and do it as much as you can, as fast as you can, because that's the best way to learn.
Love that. It's awesome advice. All right. Anything that you want to promo, plug, shout out the guys. I mean, shout to Aventi DJs.
Yeah. We're trying to grow our Instagram like everyone else. So I would love a follow. It's at Aventi DJs, AVENTI DJs. And we have some mixes. So we just started launching a workout mix program. We also just are actually launching our first campus competition. So University of Minnesota mix competition. So essentially we make a custom mix for each frat. And they send us what songs and artists they like. We make them a mix, and then whoever gets the most likes on their thing, we're going to do a huge rager with Red Bull at their campus. So that's kind of a competition we're launching. We love, if any other colleges are interested and you hear about it, let us know, and we'd be interested to work with you. But besides that, we'd hope to see you around. And if I'm out in New York, I want to say hi to you guys. So come up and say hi if you see me at the bar.
Yeah, man. Hopefully, we'll all be able to travel and link up and start playing a little more here. I think everybody's got the itch.
Definitely. And I will say, we tried to have you, Anthony Cream, out to Minnesota before, like literally, I think we were trying to book you a couple weeks before that, went down for a Sunday brunch and some other stuff. And then Gary, we want to have you too. So Minnesota people that I shared on our Instagram, you guys listen to this, these guys are going to come out. And Minnesota's a good time. It's a good time. So we'll put you through the ringer for a weekend and have a good time and do our clubs out there in Minneapolis. So
yeah, man, I was definitely bummed that I didn't get to go out there. I've never been to Minnesota, and I was excited to rock some parties, hang out, eat some good food. I know there's good food out there.
Sleep at the house. You know what I mean?
I just want to hang out at the house.
The house is something. Yeah. So you guys will get the true experience.
All right, man. Gavin, thank you for jumping on with us. We'll put everything in, all the links to your stuff in the show notes. So guys, follow Aventi DJs on IG, check out what they're doing. And thank you guys for listening to this episode. My name's Cream.
Gary W.
Gavin Boss. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, no problem. See you guys.
Later, guys.
Brother.